Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of edibles, exploring either artist names or song titles that have to deal with food. Today we're going to be looking at Horse the Band with their song Werepizza or Werepizza. I'm going to need some clarification on that. Some places have it one word, like werewolf, we have werepizza, and others have it as two words with an apostrophe on the first word, so we are werepizza. Maybe it's both, maybe that's the wordplay, but I can't seem to get a definitive angle on it. Rate Your Music, Genius, Spotify, they all use a different spelling of it. Maybe the lyrics, when we dive into that, will provide some clarity. This comes off of the Pizza EP, where every track is about pizza. Pizza is in the name of all of the titles except for one. That song's called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm really curious about that track. However, we're checking out Werepizza? Don't know. Let's dive in and see what Horse the Band is bringing to the table today. Very fast forward. Kind of hymnic here. There's reverence, but there's also darkness. The bass movement now that the organ's gone. There's a lot of grit and distortion to the vocals, but they're also kind of clear, well enunciated, cleanly produced. It's a very fun guitar riff.
Pizza is after you.
Those are two different lines. feedback as drone, but also this other guitar has a new tone. Very fuzzy, very massive. It feels like feedback as an intentional choice. It blended really well with the feedback as the drone in that previous segment. It took a bit to get here, but this was a mood. Yeah, that's just one of those bands, man. They do whatever they want. They're not looking to appease anyone other than themselves. And if they get an audience doing that, that's just the icing on the cake. We've had Horse the Band on the channel before, and I think it confused me just as much then. I have a little bit more context to understand elements of it, but it is still... it's intense. It's all over the place. It has a lot of things going on. I was gonna say let's just start from the top. That sounds like a good place, but like it doesn't. I feel like you could start at any part of this song, and going through it linearly doesn't really give you any extra insight into what the song is doing in any other section of the track. You can really start anywhere and kind of explain what's going on. I think we will start from the top, but I'm going to jump around from there. But the beginning, the intro, gives us a little bit of... well, it gives us a bit of a hymnic vibe. There is reverence in here, but there's also a little bit of darkness, a little bit of eeriness. Assuming that this song is about a werepizza, like a werewolf, someone who is human and then on full moons turns into a pizza pie. You know, we can definitely interpret some of the eerie elements of it in a pretty typical Halloween-esque angle. I've mentioned this in the past, but a lot of Baroque music that was originally used for the church, or was written for the church actually at the time, is now frequently found in your average $5 spooky music for your haunted house CDs that you can pick up at any, Halloween store around, September, October, when the stores start popping up, at least here in the States. I don't know how it is in other countries, but we will have Halloween dedicated stores pop up for about 2 months every year, and they will sell just generic Halloween music, CDs, and always Baroque music, particularly Baroque music written for the church. I always found that to be a comical movement of sound. What was originally very religious and angelic is now horror tinged and playfully eerie. Pop culture and the way that our collective ears have changed in our interpretation of sound over the years. Anyways, we have some of this at the beginning. Very campy Halloween stuff played on an organ. It has this dark eeriness to it, but it's playful. It's not tense. It's not scary or haunting. It's just playfully eerie. We bring in, well, let me stick on this, I suppose, for a little bit. Because what I thought was the outro of the song, the fuzzy solo guitar, and not just a guitar solo, but it's a solo guitar. There's nothing else going on at this moment. It's kind of tough to make out all of the notes because of all of the compression and distortion and effect pedals and everything that's going on with this. But there are a couple of sections of it where we kind of shift more towards this Baroque style of writing. We sort of dance between these two worlds, more of a punky-esque guitar riffage and then some of these more classical ones, or at least not necessarily melodically, but harmonically evoking the imagery of this classical Baroque writing. I don't think it's necessarily to say, hey, we wanted to throw Baroque in here. I do think that it is still to evoke this generic Halloween vibe to the song. But I do find it interesting that we kick off the song with it. We don't really explore it again for a while, and then we have this extended solo guitar that dips its toes into that realm every once in a while. It certainly sets the mood for the song, and I was already having fun with the idea coming in at the start. I'd already kind of caught on to the maybe this is Werepizza, so the kind of campy, schlocky, B-film horror stuff was already on my mind, and hearing the organ play this, I think works really well to further push into this realm, and having the guitar lean into it in the solo section just continues to, I think, keep that atmosphere present despite everything else that happens in the song, because there really is not any other Baroque-inspired ideas on this track. There's some metallic sections, there's some punk sections. I don't know if I'd call any of this metalcore, but we do have a combination of hardcore punk and metal. We have some black metal thrown in here. It's just loud and abrasive and aggressive stuff in every other section of this track. There's a lot of influences at play. There's some interesting drum work that occurs. We have some metallic riffage. We have blast beats. We have a plethora of vocal styles. I'm going to touch on that in a bit. We have some really cool moving and grooving bass lines. I absolutely love this part of the song. It was towards the beginning. The organ had just left. I don't know if it faded out or if it just ended its run and just didn't play anything else. But the bass came in to fill that slot. And it's just constantly moving. I mean, we were in a faster 4/4 to begin with, and the bass is just every quarter note, walking up and down these chords. Very cool idea. Had nice tone, nice presence, nice placement in the mix. You could hear it clearly. It worked alongside what the guitars were doing. Yeah, it just fantastic. But aside from the bass, I'd say everything in here is generally designed to be abrasive. The guitar riffs are loud. The tones themselves are noisy and gritty and compressed. The vocalist is just screaming at you the entire time. The drums, while interesting and complex, are pretty straightforward in a lot of the rhythmic pulse. They're loud, they're kind of dry. I found the snare to be a little off-putting, but it actually made sense when we hit the blast beats on it. I was like, oh, okay, the tone makes sense here. We're building into it. Yeah, you can't really change your guitar, I mean, your drum tone like you can a guitar tone. So, I mean, you could give the drummer like a foot pedal. I mean, honestly, you'd probably want to hand it over to the engineer to do, but you could give it to the drummer. I wonder why no one's ever done that. Probably because even in live settings, you still have an engineer tweaking things, so just tell them to do it. That plus drum timbres just don't change too often. You just mic it and you're good to go. You don't really change it up too much. Anyways, yeah, they're a little dry. I found that to be aggressive to my ear anyways, but it ends up working in the end. I'm trying to figure out how all this works within the context of a Werepizza. Even if Werepizza, I mean, I'm going to assume they didn't start as pizza, and now they are. I don't know. There's definitely a horror element to this, regardless of what they're riffing on. I think the song generally being aggressive and abrasive fits within that context while keeping a certain level of darkness to everything too, to keep that eerie horror vibe going. Regardless of what style of music they're playing, what kind of inspirations they're using for the specific drum patterns and riffs, it all encompasses this ever-changing feeling of aggression. And it's accompanied by the vocals, which I think are the cherry on top. I found this song to be rather endearing. While I will say musically it is not my typical cup of tea, I found the vocalist to be incredibly charismatic. And that's a weird thing to say for someone who just screams the whole time. But the screaming is incredibly varied. And I feel like it tells a story in and of itself. Starting from more traditional yells with a lot of compression to them, going into depressive black metal screams, and then full on like false chord stuff at the end of the track. It's this general movement from less abrasive to more abrasive sounds, and then kind of leveling out there at the end, hitting a nice medium point. But even within these harsh styles, it isn't monotone. Regardless of whether it is shouts or fries or whatever the black metal stuff is, there's texture to it. Mouth shaping changes the roundness, the shape of the sound, different levels of compression, different kinds of compression. Even there at the end, you know, having more of that straightforward, like post-hardcore fry going on there, it still has elements where there's less compression. It almost sounds like he's running out of breath and can't keep it going. And it just adds a little bit of texture to some of those final words. But even listening to the places where he keeps the compression a bit more consistent, there's still shaping to it. There's texture changes. There's pitch changes to a lot of this too. There's a couple of places in here where it honestly sounds like he's just singing with a lot of compression put on top of it. And I mean, that's every time I hear a vocalist do that, it's wild because I'm not a vocal coach. I can't really do harsh vocals too well. So I'm the wrong person to, you know, basically what I'm saying is take this with a grain of salt. But what I've typically heard about this from professionals, from vocalists, from vocal coaches, is that you don't mix compression and clean. And it always amazes me when I hear vocalists like this who seem to have full and total pitch control while doing harshes. And to my ears, it sounds like a compressed, compression put on top of a clean. And I always wonder how they do it. But yeah, like just listening to the vocalist, he tells a story all by himself. It's so easy to get lost in the vocal lines, listening to all the dexterity across all these different kinds of harshes. But again, even when we're in specific places, there's dynamic elements to it. And it's really easy to get lost in the storytelling of that. And when you mix that with all of the different styles and sounds across the song with the instrumental work, you just have a song that it's tough to be mad at, because around every 15 seconds or so, there's something new coming to check out. And I find that sort of contrast novel. I don't know if it's something I would always seek out, and it also makes the song very difficult to follow. I'd say from a like a structure point of view, it is all over the place. It's very disjointed, but it's fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and I think having me come in a little bit more fun, less serious, allowed me to enjoy some of the stranger twists and turns of it a bit more. There is one twist, though, I wasn't a big fan of, and that is the guitar solo. It just goes on for way too long. We started at 3 minutes in, about halfway through the song, and it takes up 2 minutes of time, and it's just a guitar. It starts out with a drone for the first half, the drone leaves the second half, that drone is just guitar feedback. It's not even a polyphonic guitar tone. It sounds like it's all single note ideas. There are places where we will constantly jump back and forth between two notes. That sound is very common if you've ever played a monophonic keyboard. That sort of very harsh clipping between two tones. It's sometimes it's cool, sometimes it's annoying. Here it kind of bounced back and forth. I think some riffs used it really well, others didn't. The heavy compression also covers up any sort of pitch movement along there, making it feel more monophonic. Because of course, I think it is a guitar, and even if you tap, there is going to be a point where one note becomes another, but there's also some fuzziness between there. Not necessarily a slide, but the moment where the finger hits the string to the moment that the string gets pushed down against the neck, there is a little split second there where you're going to get some overtones and some undertones. It isn't like a keyboard that can be perfectly, shifted in pitch. And to cover that up, though, they use the compression and the distortion. It helps it feel more like a monophonic instrument. Like an old school monophonic instrument, I should say. Like I said, the execution's kind of neat. I think it's cool what they ended up doing here. It reminds me so much of old keyboards. But at the end of the day, it just kind of drags on. And I don't think every single section is interesting. The final part of the song, though, is catchy. It's groovy. It's phenomenal. I don't think we needed so much of the solo to make this ending pay off, but I do think jumping from such a low to such a high helps elevate the high at the end. Let me hit some lyrics on this one. We're going to wrap it up. When did this come out? 2006. I don't know if I'd say it feels like a 2006 song lyrically, but also kind of, yeah, it does. I could see me as a much edgier teenage self really loving these lyrics. They are unhinged in the wildest way. I still find a bit of charm to it. I don't think I enjoy them as much being a bit older now. It doesn't describe somebody transforming into pizza, and it's certainly not Werepizza. I don't know where that comes from. I think Spotify uses Werepizza, as you saw in the title there. I'm pretty sure Rate Your Music also has Werepizza, but that's not it at all. It is Werepizza. It is about a Werepizza. I really need clarification on where this alternate title comes from and why it does show up in like half of well, they're unofficial, but half of the naming on the internet seems to be this wrong one. It is about this living pizza who is disgusting to look at, and he just attacks people. That's it. That's the whole thing. The beginning describes him as tortured and mangled, hungry and hateful, vicious and covered in viscous fluids. Hungry for pizza, the cannibal feasts, a creature of cravings and conspiracies. So not only is it a pizza, it eats pizza. But this plot point is completely tossed out. We don't ever talk about that again. It's not a cannibal for the rest of the story. Oh, actually it is. I lied. There is one little thing about it. It's sort of a throwaway line because the rest of this paragraph, honestly, doesn't really talk about it too much, but it is an inciting element of the scene. It describes it as being conspired by black arts and brick oven masters, calling its face a disaster. It says the Werepizza, ever since the age of 16, when he got disgusting. Apparently they weren't... he's been since the age of 16 when he got disgusting. Okay, so it says that he was birthed from a cauldron. But also says that he was normal until 16 and then he got Werepizzaed. I don't know. I'm a bit confused by the chronology of this. It says that he preys on the weak, covering them in pepperoni, garlic, olive, onion, peppers, cheese, broccoli, chicken, sausage, mushroom, jalapenos, and anchovies. So he doesn't seem to hurt them at all. He just finds people weaker than him and puts toppings on them. Where do you come up with ideas like this? The next, it's not a stanza. This is the black metal section. The dude's just screeching this stuff out. It's a fast food worker, presumably saying, "Hello, sir, here's your dear God, young man, what has happened to you?" And then just goes on an entire rant, disgustingly with the worst language, describing this Werepizza and what he sees and the boiling cheese that coats their face, asking where they crawled out of. It is inhumane the way he talks to this Werepizza. Finishing it up, asking the Werepizza if he would like him to take him out of his misery. It comes out of nowhere and absolutely vindicates the Werepizza, whatever he does, to the people around him if this is the way he gets treated. Then after that, we have the solo section, which doesn't make any sense even with the lyrics, and then the outro, which is just really cool wordplay. We have a repetition of the phrase beware or be aware. Werepizza. I mean, that's just kind of fun. The syllable where gets used 3 times in 3 different ways in 3 different words. And it has a nice bit of groove to it, and it doesn't sound too much. There's definitely sometimes syllables can get overused and it just stops sounding like a syllable, stops sounding like words, and it's just weird. And it doesn't happen here. Very cool way to wrap this up. I don't know that I have any larger idea on this. I'm not going to bring all this together into some cool thematic angle. I think this is just a fun song with some wild ideas in it that I have no idea how they came to the conclusion to this lyrically or musically. How do you even start an idea like this, much less follow it through in the way that Horse the Band did? Bonkers. Bonkers. These are my thoughts. Horse the Band's Werepizza. What'd you think, though? Did you enjoy it? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Maybe you have your own thoughts, opinions, or perspective on this. Please put all of that down into the comment section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree, Takes you here, you can find links to my music, which none of it's going to sound anything like this. Jeez. Ways to support the channel, ways to select music that shows up on the future reactions, link to the Discord server, ways to contact me, a bunch of stuff in there. Go ahead and check it out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.